All right, you all, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome back. We really appreciate everybody that has joined us. We're up to 51 participants right now. I'll take that number any day at an in-service training. So it is really good that we've had so many people attend the first session and that you all have kept coming back for more. So we really do appreciate that. All right, to get the chat box going, and Lisa, you'll have to help me monitor it. It is spring planting time. So I want to know, how green is your thumb? Drop the answer in the chat box. How green is your thumb? Spring planting time. Let's see here if I can see the chat.
It looks like we've got a lot of folks who don't have very green thumbs.
Oh, goodness.
And I'm with them. I'm glad that I live with someone who remembers to water the plants, or they would all be dead.
Well, I'll tell you all, the picture is my backyard. So that was from last year in the backyard. And we do pretty good until the end of the summer, and then everything dies because I just get tired of it. I get tired of watering it. So
we have some folks who've been able to kill pretty hardy plants too. I mean, that's an accomplishment.
That's right. Oh, wow. So we've got some green thumbs. We've got some folks that are beginning. Janet Cluck says she's so with gardening. Oh, Meredith, you killed bamboo. That is almost impossible to do. Wow, that stuff will grow through asphalt. All right. Well, you all, I am excited that spring is here and that the planting time is here. It's always one of my favorite seasons of the year. Spring and fall are both just so perfect. So I would encourage you to get out there and dig in the dirt and see if you can make those thumbs a little more green for some of you. So we are really pleased to have Dr. Fox joining us again. We appreciate her support of these sessions. And Dr. Fox, we want to give you some time for announcements, updates, anything that you want us to know. Just take it away.
Well, thank you. It's been a fun couple of months, and it's been great. I'm now starting county visits, and so that's very insightful as I try to learn more about the FCS program, so I'm very excited. So one of the topics that have come up in the listening sessions is marketing, which I think is ironic for today, and I think we're lucky enough in FCS to have an amazing creative content team. As I talked, and I want to flesh out just a little bit more, and so I am going to share my screen and have y'all take a quick poll as I'm in the information gathering stage. I want to make sure, Chris, I guess someone just shake their head if you can see that. So go to Menti, and what I want to do is, marketing came up a lot generically, and I want to learn more about what you were talking about. Now, some of the suggestions I've gotten in the listening sessions have been very specific, but I wanted to give that opportunity to really focus on what specific marketing needs. And for this time, I have 5 opportunities for you to share your ideas. And then I have a second question that goes into what is your number one, because of course we have to prioritize. I wish we all had unlimited time. And so if you'll go in, so far we haven't had anybody go in yet, but if you'll go in and yeah, there we go. And then the second slide, or the second question, will give you more of an opportunity. There'll be more sticky note type things. And so you will have the opportunity to kind of explain, like, what do you mean by digital, or, web, or whatever. So just go on in for specific marketing tools or marketing needs that you might have. There were some very good ideas. And so that'll help as we move forward and prioritize and activate that marketing committee. And while you're doing that, I'll take any questions that you might have. If you have any questions, I don't want to take a lot of time away from our presenters, because I know we're in for a good presentation. Okay. So digital tools are leading the way, and it looks like a lot. 12 of you have 13 now, so we're not quite there to halfway. Can those of you go to the second question, or do I need to progress to the second question for you to go there?
I think you need to progress, but somebody that's better at this than me might want to say so. I may even be on the wrong
It
way.
says, please wait to presenter to show the next slide.
Okay. Let's try to get up to at least 20 responses, and then I'll progress. But this will give us more specific ideas to, you know, so we know kind of what we need. There was some very good specific ideas that were shared earlier in the visits. And so I'll combine those ideas with these ideas, any of the specific ideas. Okay, we're up to 23. So we're about halfway. We're not quite halfway there, but let's go to the second slide. And what is your top? So just pick one and explain it if it needs explanation. So you think about like all those many things that were put up, you had 5 opportunities to put things up. What is the number one? Can somebody tell me a little bit more about digital tools? So what do we mean by digital tools and digital? Anybody want to stab at digital tools and digital?
Maybe that's part of the issue, is that we know we need them, but we don't know what the options are.
Okay, thank you. So we're up to 12. We'll go another minute, and then what I can do is share the poll results at the very end, but I don't want to take up too much time away from our presenters, because I know I'm sure that they have a dynamic presentation. So continue to work on that, definitely, and I'll turn it over. Let's try to get closer to 58 if we can. That would be amazing. So thank y'all so much. I'm going to turn it over to Chris or Lisa to introduce our speakers. And thank you for this time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Fox. We appreciate you being here. It means a lot to have you as part of these meetings. All right. Well, today we are really pleased to welcome the FCS Creative Content Team. You all, I don't know if you know how lucky we are to have a creative content team. This is a luxury. Karen and her team are simply wonderful, and they have made us look good, sound good, and all of those things since she has joined our department. So, Karen, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you and your team take it away.
Thank you, Chris. You can go to the next slide. So we are so excited to be here today with you to discuss bridging digital and physical experiences. I know this topic comes up often, if not moment to moment from my life. I'm sure that you think about it often. If you could, the next slide. So the Creative Content Team, for those of you who are not familiar, is made up of myself, Karen Sargent, and Joel Clark, if you'll wave, and Christopher Miramontes. Joel is our extension specialist for multimedia, and Chris serves as the communications coordinator. My title is officially IT and communications specialist. And today, we invite you into our brains to see how we use design thinking to navigate our way through creating solutions that we hope help you to reach, serve, and meet the needs of your community. Specifically, we're going to discuss the experience cycle, touch points, idea generation, and dive into our user experience. Joel, if you would, go ahead and kick us off.
Awesome. And so as Karen said, we're going to start out kind of on a grander scale. I want us to start thinking about a more holistic idea when we talk about the experience with technology and all things digital, kind of help wrap our heads around what Dr. Washburn was just talking about is what are the tools that we may need? How does that experience look? And help try to frame our mindset in the right area so that throughout this presentation, then we can get down to some nitty gritty tools and ways to help that. And so I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking through this experience cycle with technology as a whole. And so this is a ever evolving cycle that just continues throughout the process. But I think walking through it will really help us frame our minds around how we think on a daily basis with technology and all things creative content. And so usually this cycle starts and ends, if you will, with this advocate section. And so this is where an individual, maybe an agent or a resident in Tennessee, comes and communicates their needs. So this is where a program might present a need. We have something that we need to adapt for our program. This is where that inquiry comes from. Then our goal is to be able to build that relationship, that experience with the end user or individual, and that is to connect and attract them to what we're doing. And so this is that initial connection with the person. It's to help make this as effective and an effective impression as possible. How can we emotionally connect? How can we connect in a physical and digital way with them to really make sure that this experience is going to be positive, but also useful? So in order to do that effectively, we have to have this orientation phase. And so this is the time, the overview and the preview of what is available. And this is where our team spends a lot of its time. What are our possible options? How can we explore those and support these stages of learning? And so it may be through a digital tool. It may be through print. This is really where we have to orient ourselves in this experience, but also our audience. Orient them to what is possible, what are our options, and what may be some of the experiences that we can share through this created product. Obviously, then what will be one of the most important pieces then is this interaction. Technology and creative content is only as powerful as the interaction allows for. And so we have to be able to utilize this new innovative ideas and tools to interact with our audience, to help them learn something, to help them accomplish a goal, and to really teach them something in a way that excites them. And so this is where value is gained, where they're delighting in the relationship with technology, with the relationship with the producers. This is kind of where that bread and butter comes into place in this experience cycle. Then we have the end goal of extending and retaining. And so this is our hope as UT Extension specifically, is that where we have an individual that comes back for more. This is where we hope to have their expectations raised and have the loyalty increased. And so we have found a great opportunity to use creative content, and I think as you all have seen, to really enhance that loyalty, to really enhance the expectations of the quality programming that we already have, the research-backed programming. And so if we're able to extend and retain that through creating these new experiences, then we can go back and advocate for more, right? And so that's where the cycle comes all the way back full circle to do updates, to do new innovative ideas, and to really tackle new things in the field to enhance what we're already doing. So if you want to go to the next slide. So in order to do that, there is a practical piece to that. And so we started with the holistic view of how do we wrap our minds around this? How do we create that experience? But really then we need to get down to adopting technology. We're in this new stage that, like Dr. Sneed said, feels like we're in it for a decade, right? How can we adopt and utilize technology in a way that's going to advance us, make us feel more at home, increase our abilities and our clarities of use. And so I think the 6-step process by Bittner and Brown really does a great job of just highlighting how we would go about doing this. And this is something that our creative content team utilizes a structure like this on a daily basis. And so the first step would be awareness. Perceiving the needs and understanding the problem, trying to be solved with technology. And I think this is a crucial aspect because technology in our mind seems like it's always the answer, but it may not be. It may not be a digital tool when we think about marketing. It may be something with print. It may be a new brochure. It could be a flyer. Those flyers could be digital. There's a lot of questions that we need to become aware of and start to answer in our minds. How can we take the need at hand and understand if we're able to solve this problem and how we're going to solve it? And that leads us to the second step, which is crucial, and that's investigation. It would be very easy to just say social media for everything, or let's just create an Instagram post because that's what everybody's doing these days. Well, we really need to think about our audience. We really need to think about the program maybe that we're representing. There's a lot of investigation that has to go into place, and we need to look at the various avenues of approach, what tools may be best, what may work and what may not. This is where you need to understand who your audience is. Maybe internet access is an issue. Maybe just level of competency with certain programs are an issue. So we need to make sure that we're choosing the right path going forward. Then we need to evaluate. We need to assess the value at hand. Are we bringing, meaning UT Extension, the creative content team, are we bringing to the table a great solution with technology? Is this something that is going to advance Extension's programming? Is this something that's going to advance UT's message as a whole? We need to make sure that what we're bringing to the table, the solution that we've just investigated, is going to be productive. And one of the best ways we can do that is through trial. This is one of the most crucial stages, and this is where we gauge the person's experience, like we just talked about, as well as the clarity and ability of the interaction. The research says that this is the most important because it's where the individual, maybe it's the person in the county, maybe it's the agent, is actually using this creative content. This is where we really get that feedback, where we understand what works, what doesn't work. Does it need to look prettier? Is it too bright? Do we need to dull it down? Is it accessible? This is where that trial that starts to answer all those questions. Then we go into repeated use. This is where everybody starts to take a deep breath and says, okay, we have this technology, we're using it, it's working, it's helping to solve a problem that we became aware of in the first step, and it feels like we're moving in the right direction. But then we have this really important step at the very end, and that's commitment. And that is, it could be a practical sense of commitment, whether that's purchasing or publishing something. It could be a piece of software, a grant contract that gets put into place because of this new technology innovation. Or what is most likely to happen is we really look at commitment of a mindset. You know, we talked about that experience in the first slide. And how can we get Extension or our residents of Tennessee or the people in our everyday programs, how can we get them to adopt this? I think that's kind of where we're at right now with the coronavirus and all that, is really adapting and committing to new innovative ways. And so that's going to be a key to this process. If you want to go to the next one. And so it's important as we begin to start heading into more practical options for how we're going to deliver creative content, that we need to make sure that as we're going through all these steps, that technology serves as an enabler. We don't want it to disable anything. We don't want it to cause more hurdles. We want to take away hurdles and barriers. And so these are the three main components that we really want to make sure that we're enabling with technology as we holistically think through bridging that gap of digital and that physical experience. And so we need to make sure there's customization and flexibility. Are we allowing the individuals for this experience to fit their needs? Can they navigate it? Are they able to do it? We need to make sure that it's not just working for one user that may be tech savvy, but it's working for all users, all audiences that we're delivering it to and marketing it to. Does it have effective service recovery? Our team is always looking for ways to improve, adapt, and enhance the experience. And I know you all are as well. This is constantly on our minds of agents and specialists and faculties and administration alike. How can we enhance what we do and increase quality of service. And so this is a huge benefit of technology if it's leveraged correctly. It can adapt, it can be changed a lot more easily than some other things. And so we need to make sure that we're enabling that process, not creating more barriers. And then finally, in kind of a cheesy sense, but are we creating spontaneous delight? You know, we've all been there of having terrible experiences with technology, with print, with all forms and modalities of multimedia. And so we need to make sure that we're surprising our end individual, our person, with experiences that they do not expect. How are we being on the cutting edge? You know, we have these great opportunities to deliver new cutting edge programs that are research backed throughout the entire state, but how are we delivering these with spontaneous delight so that our users are advocating for more? That is the end goal, that we're building UT loyalty to UT Extension and the great work that you all do on a daily basis. If you want to go to the next. And so here's some just key takeaways as we move from a broad, holistic understanding of bridging that gap. Here's just some key takeaways. Like I said earlier, the research really suggests that if we can get to this trial period where we really get the feedback of you all and the people that you are serving, we really need to get into that stage so that we can understand how best to serve them. And so we really want to spend a lot of our time in that trial phase so that we can continue those cycles to make sure that we have an effective product. We need to keep in mind that the person, the individual that this is being used for, influences all that we do. It's very easy to get caught up in, well, I like this. It feels good for me. I like these colors. I like this brand. But if it's not connecting and if it's not good for the end individual, we're not really doing our job as UT Extension. Is it clear, and can we increase user motivation? Obviously, this is our end goal. We want to increase the motivation and the clarity so that our quality programming can come through. And so the way that we do this on a day-to-day basis is by constantly thinking of the person's view and their experience as a whole. And so we have individuals that interact with us as producers and creators on a constant basis. And they do this through things called touch points. And I think this is a really important piece of the puzzle, these touch points. And so I want to pass it over to Karen so that she can go through what are touch points and why are they so important.
Thanks, Joel. So understanding someone's current situation and what drives them towards or away from loyalty begins with understanding the actual touch point they have with our organization. This includes any and all types of interactions or encounters, whether they're physical or not, between people in our organization that might alter the way that they feel about us. If we want to improve If we want to improve our interactions with people and thus how they feel about us, we need to understand what encounters people are having with us and where they take place. One key thing to understanding the difference between a touch point and a channel. So for example, these are not touch points. Billboards, flyers, websites, direct mail. Each of those assume that someone is going to have a meaningful encounter with that item. These are actually channels, and channels are intentional places where interactions take place. Touch points are interactions or encounters that can occur despite any effort we might make or any effort that we might take. So to find the touch points, we use a lot of times we'll use something like journey mapping or that sort of thing, but we worked to find out where people turn when they want information and why. So for example, when they have a need and they look up a service online, where do they go? When they select a company or an organization to work with, what drives that decision? And how are they treated when they get their problem solved? So what is the touch point? What are the touch points along the way that guide them to their end goal? Is this a positive experience or not? So to dive into the expectation of a touch point, we have to consider whether or not it's appropriate. Both the context and the cultural tone of the interaction have to meet the need of the person. We keep a very keen focus on diversity, equity, and inclusion for both rural and urban audiences. Each of us serves on the National ESP Urban and Culturally Diverse Audience Affinity Group, and we're looking forward to working alongside our new Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion for the Institute, Greg Puckett. We have to make sure that our message is appropriate for everyone that we serve. We also need to be relevant. Is the form of interaction occurring seamlessly into someone's life? How does it fit with their time schedules? How does it fit with their location? Is it convenient? The placement, is it intrusive or does it add value? Does it have a purpose? Does it meet their expectations once they encounter it? Is it meaningful? Does the person find the interaction purposeful? Do they find it important? Is it endearing? Does it establish a bond or a connection with the person? In consideration of all these expectations, we create what are called leverage points. These are places where small amounts of effort produce a positive change in the overall function of the system of the user's experience. It's important to understand that cascading consequences of making any design changes at any single point along the system. So every change that we make has a cascading effect. I love this quote. I try not to think out of the box anymore, but on its edge, its corner, its flap, and under its barcode. Sometimes we think so far out of the box that we're no longer relevant. Sometimes we don't even resonate with the box at all, or we forget who and what the box was intended for to begin with. We can't know if we are designing out of the box if we don't recognize and deeply, intimately know the box itself, its boundaries, what it's made of, what its limitations are, and we can't create beyond the box if we don't understand who will encounter it. And basically, a design isn't finished until somebody is using it. So we want to make sure that it's useful. Looks like this. And here's how it's done. We create ideas and solutions by holistically understanding humans, empathizing with humans. With a solid foundation of science and rationality, design thinking seeks to generate a holistic, emphatic understanding of people and the problems and the things that they face. We must take time to understand what someone's feeling or what they're experiencing. We must consider the emotions, the needs, the motivations, and drivers of their behaviors. The nature of generating ideas and solutions in a design thinking approach is that we typically strive to be more sensitive and interested in like the context of the issues and the obstacles that a person might face when interacting with or having encounters with our organization or our services. The creative element of design thinking is found in the methods we use in generating solutions to problems and discover insights into our practices, actions, thoughts, the thoughts of the people that we serve. And to understand that user experience is evolving. There's constant effort towards understanding the value of user experience, as well as the design principles that collide when we create that experience. Design thinking is this non-linear iterative process that our team uses to understand users, challenge assumptions, redefine our problems, create innovative solutions and prototype and test. It's especially useful when tackling problems that are ill-defined or unknown. We're in constant cycle of reviewing, questioning, improving our initial assumptions and understanding those results. And with that, I want to pass on to Chris Montes, who's going to discuss some of what we do after we get those results.
Thank you, Karen. Now, as Karen mentioned, the results of our work help us grow to meet new challenges. Now, the results of the final stage of our work process, they help our team by understanding what problems that you may have, determining parameters of a problem, enabling us to redefine the problem if we need to, and providing new insights so we can see any alternative solutions that we may not have seen before because we now have a new level of understanding. Now, all of this is an effort to drive a positive and purposeful user experiences, and that's where I will start with mine. Now, the US government actually defines the user experience as focusing on having a deep understanding of users, what they need, what they value, their abilities, and also their limitations. It also takes into account the business goals and objectives of the group managing the project. Now, there are 7 factors that influence a user experience, and I'm going to go through kind of each one in a little bit more detail. And the first 2 are going to be usable and useful. Now, whenever we create content, whether it be a printed piece, a web page, or any other content for our programs, we not only want you to have a positive experience with it, but the end user who the content is initially created for. Now, for it to be useful, useful is in the eye of the beholder. When we talk about being useful, non-practical stuff also matters, such as things that have a fun or aesthetic appeal that may not be useful, so to speak, as like a video game or a piece of art, for example. Those are subjective. They're still useful even though they don't help us or help the end user accomplish a goal like a carrot peeler would, or even a pair of scissors on a piece of paper. Now, is it usable? The usability of content enables users to effectively and efficiently achieve the purpose. Does it engage your audience? Are there too many calls to action within your content? If there's too many components to the content in front of your end user, they're more than likely to, or they're less likely really to take away anything from that if there's too many things to think about. Now, the next 3 are findable, credible, and accessible. Now, findable, we live in a 24-hour connected world. Anything can be Googled, so to speak. Is the content you're providing easily searchable? Where's your content going to be displayed? On social media, in public places as a printed piece? These things all need to be considered in the design thinking process as well. The second one here is your content credible? You want your end user to trust whatever information is being conveyed, literally by a paragraph text or it being a visual. Being part of UT Extension and the University of Tennessee as a whole gives us an enormous amount of credibility within your community. Also, our evidence-based programming just adds another level of trust to the message of FCS. It is difficult to convey a message when your audience doesn't believe you. And the last one here is accessibility. Accessibility is even more important now with the digital age. It is providing an experience that can be accessed by anybody of a full range of abilities. This could include individuals who are disabled in such ways as hearing loss, impaired vision, or even a learning disability. Does the message we're trying to deliver meet the accessibility requirements needed? And accessibility standards only enhance the experience for anybody who's viewing your content. And one cool thing about Acrobat, which you guys have all access to, it does have an accessibility feature that you can check your PDF, and it goes through a bunch of stuff to make sure that it is accessible, let's say to a person who's having the page read out to them because they are vision impaired. So it lets you add things to certain things to where they understand what's going on with that document. And the final 2, is your content desirable and is it valuable? Desirability can communicate through your branding, your image, and your identity. Your community has to want to take action or be part of whatever your message is. Think about brands that you love and that you're loyal to. Those brands in some way have left a lasting impression that keeps you coming back. So that's what we want to do with our content. Lastly, is your content valuable? Does the content message deliver value? If I were to give you $100, could you solve a $10,000 problem? That is value. And without it, your message is more likely to get lost or ignored. What we would like you to take away is our content depends on more than utility and usability alone. We're more likely to be successful if we understand our results, apply design thinking, and take into account our end user or the audience of what that content was created for. And I'll turn it over to Joel.
So we wanted to end with just kind of being able to point us to our FCS Classroom and some different resources that we have, such as the internal resources where you can find this FCS Classroom. And here's where this, along with a lot of other projects, are really going to incorporate everything we just talked about. And so we want you to be plugged into the creative content work that we're doing. We're creating these different classrooms to enhance learning, enhance our marketing efforts, and just really spread that footprint in a well thought out way of how we do what we do in this digital age. And so, Karen, if you have anything to add on that, I wanted to just make sure that everybody was aware that this is coming and to keep their eye out on this, because this really does incorporate everything we just talked about.
Yeah, so the FCS Classroom, you go to our FCS website, and then there's a link to your internal resources, which is behind CAS and your NetID and password. And from there, there's a link to our FCS Classroom. And this is a new evolving thing, an idea that we want you to drive. We need to know what you need. We need to know where your hangups are, what you're interested in learning. So it's very important to us to know where you are, your technological wants and needs for each program. So when you go there, you're going to see a link to currently there's a tech tools or tech tips classroom. And that one currently has our Microsoft Teams, Microsoft Office, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, all kind of packaged there with LinkedIn Learning courses that you can just pick apart. There's like 2 to 5 minute snippets for any little detail that you might want to know. Like, how do I do this one thing in Outlook? It drives me crazy. I wish I could figure out how to make a folder. You can go there and it'll actually give you just a quick 2-minute synopsis of how to do that thing. Or if you're completely brand new to it, there's a complete overview that you can start with in those platforms. And we plan to do one for other technologies as well, based on demand and ask. We've also added an on-demand classroom in that space that's going to have listing to different curated playlists like in-services. FCS Connect is there. There's a PSE classroom that we've begun that's going to start to house a lot of our PSE efforts, our policy system, environmental changes that we hope that you'll check out. So I hope that you've enjoyed today. I hope that we've opened your eyes to our processes and how it is we think about each of the challenges that we're facing daily. And I hope that you feel comfortable reaching out to us. If you have any questions, I'd love to hear them.
Thank you, Karen and team. This was great. We'll open it up for questions. I have a question, but I'm going to be quiet in case other people have a question first. Okay, that was really difficult for me, so I'm going to talk now. Karen, I'm thinking back in the time that I was in the county, and things move so fast in the field. Like something comes at us, a need, a demand, and we are expected to do it, turn it around, teach it, and move on to the next thing. So, like with that mindset and that idea, unless things have slowed down substantially in the county, how do folks out in the field incorporate these best practices when there is that just quick movement and momentum to get out educational materials and to do the next class and to produce the next flyer or brochure or social media post?
Well, hopefully if we've done our job well, they'll have all those things they need. So one of the ways that we're trying to help in that way is that as we develop new programming, we are starting to implement some of these pieces into the programming practice, procedure, how we do things. So in the document, in the internal resources site, when you go to get all of your resources for a particular program, from now on, you're going to start to see marketing material, not only marketing materials, but social media prompts and things that you can access to go ahead and, so you don't have to rethink it. You can get started from what's available on the internal resources site. So there'll be marketing materials that have all been updated. Hopefully those are all available to you at this point. I believe they are. And then those social marketing pieces are being added to it. And if you find that you need additional training, that's where the FCS Classroom is coming into play. So say we are starting a hybrid class for a particular program, and we ask, we're saying, hey, if you want to provide this to your community, here's a digital way to do it. it sounds like great, but what if I don't know how to use that digital technology? That's where the FCS Classroom comes in. We're trying to provide you with quick snippets of learning opportunities that you can just sort of dive into as you're driving down the street, because these are not courses that you have to actually watch. You can watch them, but they're also very easy to listen to in the car or as you're taking a walk, which we hope you do get away from your computer from time to time. And if there are places where you're finding a hang up, that's what we need to know so that we can help to address it.
I think, and I'll add one more thing to that. I think part of the reason we wanted to start very holistic in the thought process is really for an answer to this question. I think what will be critical going forward for UT Extension as a whole is really a mindset shift. And so it may look less of the practical technical skills, like that's what our team's here for, to help assist in that, like Karen said. But you all on a daily basis are constantly thinking about the research and the programs that you're delivering. And so what we want to try and challenge ourselves in is, how can we think differently? Maybe the solutions aren't always just doing the program the same way we've always done. It doesn't mean we have to change the content of the program, but it may change on how we think through it, how we deliver it, how can we get it to new people in new ways. And so you all are the experts in the field. And without that very, very valuable information on those beginning cycles that we talked about, we can't do our job as well, and the programs won't thrive as well as they can. And so I think what we can do in this busy time where everything's hectic is just challenge ourselves to maybe not learn everything about every new program. That's where we can hopefully step in, but where you can say, I've thought about this, and here's an area where my programming could be different. Here's the awareness piece of that cycle. How can I bring that to my, the faculty, the staff, the administration, the creative content team, and say, here's an issue, let's solve it. Because a lot of these issues, whether we like it or not, are here to stay because of this new digital era and coronavirus. A lot of these needs aren't going away, but the delivery needs to be able to change as we go through it. And so I think, to answer your question, I think adopting just a growth mindset of how can we bridge that gap, this digital and physical experience. If we can have us all thinking about that, those thoughts and processes will lead to change. And I think that's the direction you already all are doing, but I would just encourage that continuation more than feeling like you have to learn everything on top of all the work you already do.
Great, thank you.
One more thing. So in the beginning of this whole presentation, Dr. Fox was asking, what do you mean by digital tools? And I completely get why everybody was just like, right? Because that's where we are. It's like, I know that I'm being expected to do something different. I know I'm being expected to provide different solutions, but I don't really know what those solutions could be, what they might look like, and how we might get there. So that's the part that we're asking from you, is instead of trying to necessarily solve the problem, tell us what the problem is so that we can come alongside you and sort of guide those ideas and those thought processes so that it benefits the whole community of UT Extension. Because if we can collaborate together, then we can come up with solutions that helps everyone. Because some people are going to have more comfort in this area and some are going to have more comfort in this area. But regardless of your comfort level, everyone is experiencing much of the same thing in their own community. And that is the sense of need for change.